Most people don't fail because they lack opportunity. They fail because they never took command of their mind. You see, poverty is not just a condition of the pocket. It's a condition of the mind. It's programmed, installed, passed down like a cursed heirloom. And until you break that cycle with ruthless awareness and relentless action, you will repeat it. Most people stay broke not because they were born into nothing, but because they never learned how to build something. We live in a world where information is free, but attention is expensive, where motivation is a drug and distraction is the dealer. Most people chase shiny objects instead of mastering themselves. They scroll, consume, compare, and complain, but they never create. They never own. They never build. Henry Ford started with nothing. No degree, no investors, just a vision that burned so hot he couldn't sleep. And while others mocked him for trying to build a car for the common man, he silenced them with action. Edison, he failed over 10,000 times to invent the light bulb. People laughed. They said he was wasting his life. But he said, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. That's the mindset of wealth. Broke is not about money. Broke is about how you think, what you expect, and what you tolerate. Broke is when you wait for permission. Broke is when you believe effort ends at discomfort. Broke is when you hand over the keys to your life to other people's opinions. Most people stay broke because they never decided to become rich. They wished, they hoped, they made a vision board. But they didn't decide, and decision is everything. When Napoleon Hill interviewed the wealthiest men of his time, Carnegie, Rockefeller, Morgan, Edison, Ford, he discovered a single pattern. Every one of them possessed a burning desire, a definiteness of purpose, and a will that would not be broken. Not by failure, not by time, not by critics, not by fear. Definiteness of purpose. That's the first reason most people stay broke. They never choose what they actually want. They drift, they react, they survive, but they don't declare. And until you declare what you want, life will toss you around like a leaf in a storm. You were not born to drift. Clarity is power. Without it, you're walking through life blindfolded. The universe responds to certainty, not confusion, not doubt, not lukewarm intention. When your vision is cloudy, your results will be too. Do you want to stay broke? Then keep avoiding clarity. Keep avoiding the uncomfortable question. What do I truly want? Not what's realistic, not what's easy, not what your parents expected. What do you want? That's the question that shatters the chains. But clarity without belief is worthless. That's the next reason people stay broke. They do not believe they are worthy. And so they sabotage, they hesitate, they shrink, they work just enough to feel busy but never enough to change their lives. They don't study wealth. They don't model success. They don't put themselves in rooms that scare them. They think they're stuck because of the economy, their boss, the system. But the real prison is internal. It's invisible. It's a voice that says, who are you to do something great? Let me tell you, you were born to do something great. But greatness is not handed out like candy. It must be demanded. And that demand starts in the mirror. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to your standards. Your standards decide everything. How you show up, what you tolerate, what you chase, what you finish. And most people have poverty standards. They have just enough standards. They have I hope this works standards. They never raise the bar. You want to break the cycle, then raise your standard. Stop making failure an option. Stop waking up without a plan. Stop negotiating with your goals. Decide what you want and burn the bridge behind you. Make it non-negotiable. Because here's another brutal truth. Most people stay broke because they avoid discipline. Discipline is the bridge between desire and achievement. Everyone wants success. Few are willing to suffer for it. Discipline means doing the work when the mood is gone. It means showing up at 5 a.m. when no one is watching. It means reading books instead of watching noise. It means saying no to comfort and yes to character. Andrew Carnegie was born into poverty. His first job paid $1.20 a week, but he showed up like he owned the company. He studied, he listened, he moved with hunger. Within a decade, he built the largest steel empire the world had ever seen. What changed? Not the economy, not luck, not timing. His mindset, his discipline, his relentless refusal to accept smallness. That's the blueprint. and yet most people ignore it. They chase shortcuts. They buy into the illusion of passive income without massive action. They want the rewards but none of the requirements. Success is rented, and rent is due every day. But discipline alone is not enough. You need faith. You need vision. You need to see it before it exists. Because wealth is first imagined before it is earned. Steve Jobs once said, "The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do." That's not just a quote, it's a way of thinking. Most people stay broke because they are logical in a world that rewards belief. Faith is not blind hope. Faith is inner knowing. Faith is when you move forward before the evidence appears. It's what Thomas Edison had. It's what Walt Disney had when he was fired for lacking imagination. It's what every builder, every visionary, every wealth creator had, a refusal to bow to reality. Because reality is negotiable, and wealth is built by those who negotiate with it. So what are you negotiating for? What are you willing to demand from life? Because if you don't demand more, you will get less. That's not pessimism, that's physics. Entropy doesn't care about your dreams. You must fight for order, fight for meaning, fight for expansion. You must move from victim to creator. And creators don't wait. They act, they build, they adapt. Let me continue this by reminding you, success begins in silence, not in applause, not in likes, not in external validation, but in that still small voice that says, "I was made for more." That whisper is your soul, and your soul doesn't care about your excuses. Your soul knows what you're capable of. It knows the level you're hiding from, and every time you settle, you feel it. That ache, that unease, that emptiness, it's your potential screaming to be set free. So stop betraying your future with today's comfort. Success doesn't scream, it whispers. It hides in the early hours, in the late nights, in the lonely decisions to keep going when no one claps. And when you stop waiting for motivation, when you start showing up like your life depends on it, everything changes. Because it does. Your life does depend on it. On your habits, your thoughts, your focus, your discipline, your circle, your inner work. Change those and you change everything. This is why most people stay broke. But that doesn't have to be your story. You can break the cycle. You can rewrite the script. You can become the one in your family who changed everything. But only if you decide. Only if you rise. Only if you demand more. So rise and never settle again. Because the truth is this. Your dream is already yours, but it's waiting for you to become the version of you that can hold it. Until then, it will wait. It will wait in the shadows of your self-doubt, in the silence of your hesitation, in the corners of your comfort zone. It will wait until you stop playing small and start living like it's already done. This is not about motivation. This is about identity. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. And if you want to become unstoppable, wealthy, fulfilled, then become the person who expects it, who embodies it, who acts like it before anyone else believes it. Your dream is not on the other side of luck. It's on the other side of you. And if you still wonder why you haven't made it yet, it's not because you're not talented. It's not because you're not worthy. It's because you haven't become relentless yet. Relentless in your discipline. Relentless in your vision. Relentless in your refusal to live an average life. Most people wake up hoping life will change. Winners wake up and change it. They don't ask, "What can I get?" They ask, "Who must I become?" Because success is not a result, it's a reflection. It mirrors who you are when no one's watching. It mirrors your daily standards, your silent choices, your unseen battles. The world doesn't reward your potential, it rewards your execution. You say you want freedom, then earn it. You say you want millions, then think and move like someone who commands millions. Because money is not the goal, mastery is. And the wealth follows those who master their craft, their emotions, their mind. The truth, your greatest enemy is not the economy. It's not the government. It's not your background, your family, or your education. Your greatest enemy is your comfort zone. And the longer you worship it, the longer you stay broke, financially, spiritually, emotionally. So burn it down. Burn the habits that made you weak. Burn the distractions that steal your focus. Burn the lies that say just be realistic. Realism is the death of greatness. You were not put here to survive. You were put here to lead, to create, to rise. This world needs fire, and you have it. But you must choose to light it every single day. So stand up, set your standard, silence the excuse, and command the life that was already yours the moment you decided to no longer accept less. Because once you decide, the universe rearranges itself in your favor. No one is coming to save you, and that's not a curse. That's your greatest gift. Because the day you stop waiting is the day you start building. The day you stop hoping is the day you start commanding. Commanding your focus, commanding your energy, commanding your future. You weren't born to blend in. You were born to break patterns, to disrupt mediocrity, to shatter every limitation that's been handed down to you. You want to honor your family, then stop repeating their fears. Stop living their doubts. Stop carrying beliefs that never belong to you. You owe it to them to rise higher. You owe it to yourself to stop shrinking. Because the moment you fully accept this truth, that your results are your responsibility, is the moment everything changes. Responsibility is power, and most people run from it. They'd rather blame, point fingers, justify. But champions own everything. Their wins, their loss, their mindset, their grind. They don't wait for the perfect plan. They move with imperfect action. They adapt. They learn. They grow. And they never look back. That's what it takes. Because life is not a rehearsal. This is your shot. And if you don't take it, someone else, someone hungrier, someone more focused, someone who decided not to settle. So you can keep playing it safe, or you can step into the arena, bloodied, uncertain, but undeniable. So ask yourself right now, how long will you keep playing small? How many more months will you say, this is the year, and then wake up living the same day on repeat? How many more excuses will you craft just to feel okay with being average? How many more talents will you bury just to make other people comfortable? You were not sent here to live quietly. You were not designed to just survive, pay bills and die. You are the one in your bloodline who was built to rise, to break the chain, to change the story. But you can't change anything until you face everything. Face your laziness, face your fear, face your addictions to comfort, to distraction, to validation. This is a war, and the battlefield is your mind. Every day you wake up, you're either training for war or surrendering to weakness. There is no neutral. You're either evolving or eroding, growing or dying. And most people, they die with the best of them, still inside. They die with unwritten books, unlived dreams, unspoken truths, because they were too scared to begin. But not you. You don't need anyone to crown you. You don't need permission. You are the permission. You are the decision. You are the line in the sand. And from this moment forward, the past has no say in who you become. It doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter what you've lost. It only matters what you choose to do now. Right now, because the window is closing. Life doesn't wait. Time doesn't pause. Your future self is watching you, begging you to wake up, to move, to commit, to finally become who you were born to be. So stop flirting with your potential. Marry it. Commit to it like your life depends on it. Because it does. The version of you you've been dreaming of, that version is real, it's alive, but it only activates through radical action. Not next week, not when you feel ready, now. Because if you don't do it now, you won't do it at all. And 5 years from now, you'll wish you had. You'll look back and realize that everything you needed, the vision, the power, the greatness was already inside you. You just had to get out of your own way. So let this be the moment you never forget. The moment everything shifted, the moment you stopped negotiating with your potential and finally demanded all of it. Burn the old story. Burn the fear. Burn the maybe, the someday, the I don't know how. You don't need to know the whole path. You just need to start walking. Start with the first decision, the first hard conversation, the first uncomfortable action, the first real commitment, and then never look back. Because the version of you that changes everything, that version doesn't need motivation. It is the motivation. It leads, it builds, it walks alone if it has to. That version wakes up before the world does. It studies while others scroll. It moves while others make excuses. It bleeds for a vision no one else can see. You want freedom? Then earn it. Freedom isn't handed out, it's forged. Forged in discipline. Forged in sacrifice. Forged in the fire of your refusal to live a second-rate life. And once you taste it, real freedom, you'll never go back. So raise your standard, take the leap, make the call, have the courage to do what average people won't. And when the fear shows up, smile, because that's proof you're on the edge of something powerful. You weren't built for safety. You were built to lead, to build, to conquer, to expand. You were born with the same spark that lit every great mind in history, but you must choose to light it. So today, choose power over pity, discipline over distraction, purpose over pleasure, and legacy over laziness. Because when it's all said and done, there's only one question that will matter. Did you rise, or did you stay where it was safe? Your dream is waiting. It's watching, and it's dying for you to finally say, I'm ready. Not tomorrow, now. Now, take a breath. Look in the mirror. Not just at your face, but at your fire. The part of you that's been buried under doubt, under delay, under distractions that never deserved your attention. You see it now, don't you? The warrior, the leader, the creator, the one who never left, just waited for you to remember. This is your permission to remember who you are, not who the world told you to be, not who you had to become to survive, but who you were designed to be, when you were still free, still bold, still fearless, the one who didn't shrink, the one who didn't flinch, the one who knew they were meant for more. That version of you is not gone. It's dormant, and this is the awakening. So whatever it takes, rise, speak your vision out loud, write the plan, make the move, invest in your future like your life depends on it, because it does. You get one shot, one life, and most people waste it waiting for clarity, waiting for the right mood, waiting for someone to believe in them, but not you, because now you know. You are the clarity. You are the right time. You are the belief. So go. Walk into your vision like it already belongs to you, because it does. Not in the next life. Not when the stars align. Now. Because this is the moment that separates the few from the many. This is where the shift happens. This is the second your old life ends and your real one begins. Don't forget this feeling. Don't lose this fire. Now go become what you were born to be. Now pause and breathe with intention, not the shallow breath of someone rushing through life, but the deep inhale of a person standing on the edge of everything they could become. Look at yourself, not the mask, not the title, the job, the likes, the validation. Strip all of that away. Look into the raw, unfiltered core. What do you see? Because behind the noise and self-doubt, behind the compromises and fears you've tried to rationalize as being realistic, there's a version of you that's still alive, not weak, not confused, not average, but undeniable. That version is focused. It's ruthless with time. It's built on discipline, not motivation, and it doesn't need applause to move forward. It gets up early, trains when it's tired, studies while the world is distracted, and builds in silence because it knows the results will speak loud enough. That version has been waiting for you to stop hesitating, waiting for you to finally say enough, enough wasting time, enough playing small, enough waiting for the stars to align, because the truth is there is no perfect moment, there is only now, and the longer you delay, the deeper you bury the life you were meant to live. You think you're waiting on clarity, but clarity is a reward for movement, not hesitation. It's earned by those who step forward when their legs still shake, who speak when their voice still trembles, who start before they feel ready. So here's the reality. Every day you don't act on your potential, you train your mind to settle for less. Every time you choose comfort over courage, you reinforce the lie that greatness is for other people. But it's not. It's for the few who finally snap the cycle, who rise not because they feel powerful, but because they decide to act powerful long enough to become it. So burn the blueprint they gave you. You don't need permission, and you don't need consensus. You need hunger. You need vision. You need to be so disgusted with being average that you refuse to live one more day beneath your potential. This is the rebirth. Not tomorrow, not next year. Right now, the moment where your old identity dies and your true power begins to breathe. Don't just let the fire flicker. Fuel it, feed it, guard it like your life depends on it, because it does. One life, one chance, and no one's coming to do it for you. So rise, not with noise, but with intention, not with hype, but with unshakable clarity, not to prove them wrong, but to prove to yourself that you were never average to begin with. You just forgot who you were. Now remember, and move like your future is already yours. And when you walk out of this moment, this decision, this awakening, you don't walk out as the same person who walked in, because something inside you just shifted. And once it shifts, it cannot be undone. You've seen too much of who you really are to ever go back to playing small. You've tasted the spark, and now mediocrity will never satisfy you again. You've cracked the shell, and now the old version of you can't hold you anymore. This is what transformation feels like: uncomfortable, raw, real. It doesn't come dressed in confidence and clarity. It comes in silence, in sweat, in sacrifice, in choosing discipline over distraction for the 1,000th time, in building your future in the dark before anyone claps, before anyone sees. And that's the mark of the few, the ones who keep going when the excitement fades, the ones who show up when no one's watching, the ones who don't just say they want it, they become the kind of person who earns it. So from here on out, you don't chase goals, you embody the identity that achieves them. You don't ask for guarantees, you guarantee your own growth through grit and consistency. You don't beg for success, you become so undeniable that it has no choice but to arrive. And when they ask how you did it, when they wonder how you rose while they stayed stuck, you'll look them in the eyes and say, I decided to no longer live at war with my own potential. I got sick of excuses. I got sick of waiting. I got sick of being almost great. Because greatness isn't a moment, it's a mindset, a muscle, a standard. And you raise that standard every time you follow through when no one's clapping, every time you make the tough choice when no one's watching, every time you say, I don't need perfect, I just need purpose. So now, go live it. Not just in your words, but in your habits. Not just in your dreams, but in your decisions. Not just today, every day. Because the world doesn't need more potential. It needs more people willing to realize it. And you're no longer one of the many. You're one of the few who rise, the few who remember, the few who refuse to die with their greatness still buried inside them. So go, build it, be it, and never forget this moment, because this is where your real life began. Let the world watch. Let them doubt you. Let them misunderstand your silence, your obsession, your solitude. Let them laugh and later wonder how you built an empire from the ashes they left you in, because you don't owe the world explanations, only evidence. And from this point forward, your life will be the evidence of discipline, of vision, of grit. Not because you got lucky, but because you got serious. Not because you had time, but because you made time. Not because you were fearless, but because you moved despite the fear. So the next time you hear the voice of doubt creep in, the next time you feel the pull to shrink, to stall, to delay, remember this moment. Remember the fire that lit when you finally said, I'm done waiting. I'm done surviving. Now I rise. Because once you've tasted purpose, once you've stood face to face with who you're meant to be, there's no turning back. Only forward. Only higher. Only everything. Now go and make it real. And as this message fades, what you do next will define everything. Not your intentions, not your excitement in this moment, but the decisions you make after the feeling is gone. Because motivation fades, emotion cools, but character remains. And character is built in the quiet, in the moments when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, when it's just you and the work. That's where winners are made. You're not here to just feel something and scroll away back to the same habit. You're here because deep down you've always known that you were capable of more, capable of leading, of building, of rising into the type of person who doesn't just dream of a better life, but creates one through clarity, through discipline, through relentless follow-through. And I need you to understand this. Success is not something you chase like it's out there somewhere waiting to be discovered. Success is something you align with through every choice you make, every hour you protect, every belief you reinforce or destroy. It's not a lottery ticket. It's not luck. It's the accumulation of 1,000 invisible wins that no one else sees until one day the world calls it overnight. But it wasn't. It was built in silence, forged in early mornings, built when you said no to things that felt good so you could say yes to things that matter. The people you admire, the ones living freely, abundantly, intentionally, they weren't born with a secret. They just refused to keep betraying their potential. And that's your choice now. Because if you don't claim your vision and begin moving toward it like your life depends on it, then you will drift. And drifting over time becomes a slow death, a fading of the soul, a surrender to mediocrity dressed up as responsibility. So here's your truth. No one is coming to force you to grow. No one is going to knock on your door and deliver the life you want. No mentor, no book, no video, not even this one will ever be enough unless you decide to act. This is the line in the sand. You've heard enough. You've waited long enough. You've thought about it, talked about it, journaled about it, and now you're at the place where it's time to be about it. Not because everything's perfect, but because you're done living a life that isn't yours. There will be resistance. There will be fear. There will be setbacks that try to convince you to shrink back into the old version of you that felt safe in limitation. But that version has nothing left for you. No growth, no glory, no greatness. You're not meant to be remembered as someone who almost made it. You're meant to be remembered as someone who decided and then backed that decision with everything they had. Not just once, but every day after, until the person they imagined in silence became the person they saw in the mirror. This is not the end of the video. It's the beginning of your next chapter. And if you're serious, if you're ready to step into the life that's been waiting for you to stop hesitating, then don't wait for a sign. You are the sign. You are the proof that change is possible. You are the evidence that transformation is real. Now close your eyes. Picture that version of you, not the fantasy, the future. Strong, focused, clear, fulfilled, alive. You're not chasing that person anymore. You're becoming them, and the world will feel it, because you're not just dreaming anymore. You're building, you're leading, you're rising, and this time you're not turning back. And when the world goes quiet again, when the noise of motivation fades and you're left alone with nothing but your thoughts, that's when the real work begins. Not the visible work, the flashy work, the social media friendly grind, but the invisible work. The work that doesn't post well but pays forever. It's the moment when no one is watching and you still choose discipline over comfort. When you're tired, when the reward is far away, when doubt creeps in louder than belief, and still you move. Because you understand something now that most people never learn in their entire lives. Success, freedom, greatness, they're not one-time events. They're daily agreements you make with your future. Agreements that say, I will not negotiate with the weaker version of myself today. And if you can do that not once but over and over in silence, in discomfort, in resistance, then you won't need to chase your vision. It will begin to chase you. It will align with you because you've become the kind of person who naturally attracts everything they once thought they had to beg for. And that's the truth they don't tell you. You don't get the life you want because you desire it hard enough. You get it when you're disciplined enough to become someone who's no longer a match for mediocrity, someone whose standards make it impossible to go back to sleepwalking through life. Because once you raise your standard, really raise it, you will start losing things. You'll lose distractions. You'll lose relationships that depended on your stagnation. You'll lose the need to explain yourself to people who were never meant to understand you. But you will gain something greater. You'll gain clarity. You'll gain that deep, unshakable knowing that your life is moving in alignment with something far more powerful than validation, purpose. And when purpose becomes your compass, your priorities shift. You don't waste time. You don't chase approval. You don't tolerate half-effort from yourself because you know what's at stake. This isn't about motivation anymore. This is about identity, about choosing to operate from a place of intention so high that even on your worst day, your habits still carry you forward, that even in moments of doubt, your discipline is louder than your excuses, and that even if the world can't see it yet, you know who you are becoming. You are no longer in the business of temporary highs. You're in the business of long-term transformation. You're not building a moment. You're building a legacy. And legacies aren't built when it's easy. They're built when it's inconvenient, painful, and thankless, and you show up anyway. So walk forward now, not with noise, not with empty fire, but with unshakable direction. Let every action speak for the future you're building. Let every step be a rejection of your old limitations. Let every small silent decision be proof that you are no longer who you were because you've outgrown the version of yourself that tolerated anything less than excellent. You are not starting over. You are rising from within. And every day you act like the person you're becoming, you make it harder and harder for the old version of you to survive. This is your new normal, not wishing, not wanting, not waiting, but building deliberately, unapologetically, relentlessly. So go forward with eyes clear and heart steady. You already know who you are. Now let your actions make the world believe it too, because this is no longer about who you were. This is about who you refuse not to become. Let's continue and go even deeper. This next part expands on the emotional transformation, the shift in identity, and the quiet internal power that begins to build when someone fully commits to growth. It's not about surface-level hype. It's about the subtle but permanent rewiring that happens when someone leaves behind who they were and begins to embody who they were meant to be. This is the emotional aftermath, where the transformation takes root. You may not see it yet, but something profound is already happening within you. It's not loud, it's not flashy, it's not something you can post or explain. It's something only you can feel in the way your perspective has shifted, in the way you can no longer tolerate your own excuses, in the way you've quietly raised the standard of what you now accept from yourself and your life. This is how real transformation begins, not in a moment of applause, but in that private decision to never again betray the future you know you're capable of living. You start to notice it in the little things, the way you wake up earlier, not because it's easy, but because there's a mission pulling you forward. The way you choose discomfort over distraction, focus over convenience, consistency over chaos. You find yourself thinking bigger, talking less, moving differently, and maybe the world hasn't noticed yet, but it will, because when you're truly aligned, when you stop performing for the world and start committing to your own personal evolution, you begin to radiate a presence that doesn't need to shout to be felt. People may not understand you anymore. They might call it obsession, arrogance, intensity, but you'll know it by its true name, clarity, because once you've seen what's possible, you cannot go back to pretending you did. Once you've glimpsed your potential, the real untapped power sleeping inside you, you can no longer live like you're average. And here's what no one tells you, that version of you you keep chasing, the powerful, disciplined, unstoppable version of you you've been visualizing. It's not waiting in some far-off future. It's already inside you, right now, buried beneath years of doubt, fear, conditioning, and comfort. And every day you choose growth over fear, you're not becoming someone new. You're returning to who you were before the world told you to play small. You're not creating your power, you're uncovering it. And from here on out you carry that knowing with you, not just when it's easy, not just when it's exciting, but especially when it's hard, especially when no one's clapping, especially when it would be easier to quit. That's the difference between those who talk about change and those who embody it, the ones who keep showing up even when it hurts, the ones who keep building even in the silence, the ones who no longer need a reason because they became the reason. So if you ever forget who you are, if you ever get lost in the noise again, remember this version of you, the one who decided to rise, the one who refused to wait, the one who finally said, no more delay, no more excuses, no more pretending I'm not ready, because you've always been ready. You just had to remember what it felt like to believe it. And now that you do, don't just hope for change, live it, own it, prove it, through your habits, through your choices, through the way you show up every single day, like the future depends on it, because it does. This is the quiet power of a person who has stepped into alignment with their purpose, unshakable, undeniable, unstoppable. This next part flows naturally from the last, but it goes deeper into the mindset of becoming, the internal shift that separates those who break through from those who stay stuck. Every sentence is crafted to feel meaningful, cinematic and personal, like it's being spoken directly into the mind of someone who's finally ready to stop negotiating with their potential. This is the quiet intensity of transformation, not the storm but the calm resolve that comes after it. You'll know you've changed, not by what others say, but by what you no longer tolerate. You'll stop explaining your vision to people who can't even see their own. You'll stop waiting for support, applause, or external permission, because somewhere along the way you'll realize that real confidence isn't loud, it's certain. It's in the way you move through your day with intention, in the way you protect your time like your future depends on it, because it does. And while others are still trying to look successful, you'll be busy becoming it, not through shortcuts, not through hustle for show, but through silent repetitions, through deep focus, through the discipline to choose long-term growth over short-term gratification. You won't need motivation every day, because you've built something stronger than that identity. You no longer ask, how do I stay motivated? You ask, what would the version of me who's already achieved it do right now? And then you do that, over and over, until your life starts to match your vision. You won't always be excited. You won't always feel clear, but clarity is not given. It is earned through movement. Purpose is not found. It is revealed through the act of showing up, especially when it's hard, especially when it's boring, especially when you'd rather quit. And slowly something shifts. The noise gets quieter. Your doubts don't disappear, but they stop making decisions for you. The old habits lose their grip. You feel a new voice rising, not shouting, not begging, just calmly reminding you this is who you are now. You start to notice it in your posture, in the way you speak, in the energy you carry into a room, not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you've finally started to respect yourself. And with that comes peace, not comfort, not ease, but peace, because you're finally living in alignment with your deepest truth. You're not running from your past anymore. You're not obsessed with the future. You're here now, building something that matters, not for applause, but for purpose, not for ego, but for impact. You start to realize all the chaos, all the resistance, all the pain, it wasn't the enemy. It was the invitation, the pressure that shaped you, the storm that cleared the way, the weight that forced you to grow stronger. And now that you've seen who you can become, you can't go back to pretending you don't know. You've crossed a threshold, and on the other side is the life that only the committed get to experience, a life of deep work, deep fulfillment, real success, not borrowed, not inherited, but earned, breath by breath, brick by brick. So no, this isn't about hype anymore. This is about becoming the kind of person who doesn't need it. This is about consistency. This is about self-respect. This is about remembering that the highest version of you isn't waiting on the other side of your goals. They're already inside you, and they're watching every decision you make. So the question isn't, can you do it? The question is, will you finally stop standing in your own way? Will you trust the process long enough for it to reward you? Will you build when no one believes? Will you rise when no one claps? Will you keep showing up, not because it's easy, but because you made a promise to yourself that you're done playing small? Because once you make that kind of promise and mean it, everything changes. Not immediately, not easily, but inevitably. This next part is about what happens after someone steps into alignment, the part where pressure increases, where people begin to notice something different in you, and where life begins to test whether you're truly committed or just inspired. It's no longer just a story of growth, it's about defending the growth, about rising under pressure, not avoiding it. Here's the continuation with long, emotionally resonant sentences that keep the listener locked in. Eventually, people will notice something different in you. They won't be able to explain it, but they'll feel it. In the way you carry yourself, in the way your words hold weight, in the quiet confidence of someone who's no longer searching for validation because they've become their own proof. They might ask what changed. They might ask how you did it. And the truth is, most of them won't understand the answer because it wasn't a single breakthrough. It was 1,000 unseen moments where you chose discipline over ease, alignment over approval, and courage over comfort. It was when you woke up and refused to hit snooze, not because you weren't tired, but because you were tired of betraying your future. It was when you turned down another empty distraction, not because it wasn't tempting, but because you finally knew what it was costing you. It was when you decided that average for you would always be more painful than effort. And here's the thing most people never realize: the moment you start leveling up, the tests begin. Not because life is trying to break you, but because it's trying to see if you're ready for what you've asked for. It's easy to be disciplined for a week. It's easy to show up when it's new, when it's exciting, when the motivation is high. But the question is, can you stay committed when it gets quiet? Can you keep showing up when the hype is gone and no one's watching? Can you push through when growth feels like isolation, when progress looks like nothing changing yet? Because this is where most people quit. Right before the compound effect kicks in, right before the shift from effort to momentum begins, right before the world begins to reflect what you've been building in the dark. And that's why you won't quit, because you didn't come this far for inspiration. You came for elevation, and you've already outgrown the person who used to break under pressure. You're no longer seduced by quick wins or overnight results. You understand that real power is built in decades, not days. You're here to build something that lasts. Something that reflects who you are becoming, not just what you can achieve. And that's the ultimate shift, when you stop chasing outcomes and start becoming the type of person who naturally attracts them. When your habits, your thoughts, your presence all speak for you before you say a word. When your life starts to reflect a level of intention so high, it forces the world around you to either rise or step back. You'll lose some things on this path. You'll lose comfort. You'll lose certain people. You'll lose the old version of yourself that depended on approval, on permission, on escape. But what you gain is greater. You gain clarity, peace, inner strength, a quiet kind of power that doesn't scream to be seen because it isn't afraid to be alone. This is who you are now. Not someone chasing results, but someone living in alignment. Not someone trying to look powerful, but someone becoming undeniable. You've stepped into the arena, now stay there, bleed there, build there, because you've already tasted the truth, that your dream was never a fantasy. It was always a memory from your future, calling you home. This next part is about what happens when you step beyond the point of no return, when you no longer look back, when excuses lose their grip, and when every action becomes a vote for the future you're unapologetically creating. This is not just motivation. This is becoming untouchable from the inside out. Every sentence is meant to pull a truth out of the listener they've been avoiding and replace it with the fire they need to walk forward deliberately. Let's continue. There comes a moment in your journey where you realize there's no going back. Not because you can't, but because you won't. Because the cost of staying the same has finally outweighed the fear of change. It's not a loud moment. It doesn't come with fireworks. It comes in silence, in stillness, in the calm realization that you've simply outgrown the version of yourself that settled, that waited, that hoped someone else would come save you. No one is coming, and you no longer want them to, because something far more powerful has awakened inside you. Ownership. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, what am I going to build from this? You stop running from your pain and start using it as fuel, as clarity, as proof that there is more in you than you've been living, and suddenly everything shifts. You're no longer trying to force confidence because your actions are creating it. You're no longer trying to escape the hard moments because you understand that the hard moments are the fire doesn't scare you anymore because you've realized the fire was never your enemy. It was your invitation to rise, to evolve, to meet the strongest, clearest, most focused version of yourself, the version that only pressure could reveal. And here's the part they don't tell you. This transformation, it's not a one-time event. It's a daily choice to let go of who you were, to step into who you were always meant to become, not perfectly, not instantly, but deliberate. Every time you say no to distraction, every time you show up when it's inconvenient, every time you speak your vision out loud, even when your voice shakes, you're casting a vote for the person you're becoming. And those votes, those quiet daily decisions, they start to shape your reality. They start to pull your future closer. Not because life is suddenly easier, but because you are stronger. And make no mistake, this is not the easy path. This is not the path most people will choose, because it requires you to hold yourself to a higher standard even when no one else does. To keep moving when no one is clapping. To carry your dream through the dark. Not because it's easy, but because you've made a non-negotiable decision to become the person who lives. This is what self-mastery looks like. Choosing discipline over drama, purpose over popularity, legacy over comfort. And when you live this way, when your habits match your ambition, when your mindset reflects your mission, you become dangerous to mediocrity, untouchable to your old patterns, unrecognizable to the version of you that used to settle. You stop asking if you're ready, and you start showing the world what readiness looks like. And from that place, that internal certainty, you begin to move differently, not to prove yourself, but because you already know who you are, and nothing is more powerful than a person who walks like their future is inevitable. Because for you, it is. You've made the choice. You've stepped into the fire. You've stopped waiting for signs and started becoming one. Now keep going, because you're not just building a better life. You're becoming the kind of person who makes it impossible to live anything less. Pure motivation without insight can feel repetitive and hollow, especially for a serious audience seeking real transformation, not just hype. Let's pivot now. From this point forward, we'll layer in strategy, perspective shifts, mental models and principles rooted in the spirit of Napoleon Hill, not just fire-you-up language, but ideas that reshape the way people think, not just how they feel. What follows is a meaningful, elevated next section, still emotionally compelling, but built around clarity, wisdom, and insight that sticks. This is the kind of content that lingers in someone's mind hours after listening. Let's get something straight. You don't just need motivation. You need a framework, a way to think, a way to move through the world that makes success inevitable, not accidental. Success isn't about intensity. It's about direction. And most people, they confuse movement with progress. They're busy. They're tired, they're grinding, but they're not moving any closer to who they want to become. Why? Because they haven't built the mental architecture to sustain success. They're chasing results without becoming the kind of person who can hold on to them. That's the real work, not just learning how to win, but learning how to deserve the win through your habits, your thinking, and your ability to stay calm under pressure. And that begins with your dominant thoughts. Napoleon Hill said it best. You become what you think about. But most people never stop to audit what they're actually thinking about hour by hour, day by day. So ask yourself, is your mind a workshop for ideas or a graveyard for doubts? Do you spend your day imagining problems or engineering solutions? Do you use your imagination to visualize or to worry? Because here's the truth. The most powerful tool you own is not your time, it's not your money, it's your attention. And where your attention goes, your results follow. Always. Every day your attention is being hijacked by noise, by urgency, by the illusion that everything is important. But if you want to master success, you have to master focus. Because clarity is the seed of power, you cannot build a legendary life with a distracted mind. Now let's talk about belief. Not the fluffy kind, the practical kind. Belief is not about wishing, it's about training your nervous system to feel safe in bigger rooms. It's about raising the ceiling of what you believe is possible and matching your actions to that vision. And that starts with decisions. Not massive, once-in-a-lifetime decisions, but small, high-leverage, repeatable ones. Decide that you'll speak to yourself with respect, even when no one's watching. Decide that you'll do the hard thing first. Not because it feels good, but because it trains your identity. Decide that when you're tired, you'll rest with intention, not escape out of habit. This is the internal game, the part no one sees, the part that makes all the difference. Because if your mind isn't disciplined, your emotions will negotiate against your goals every single time. That's not weakness, that's untrained energy. And wealth, purpose, freedom, they all require a mind that can hold tension without collapse. So here's the model to remember. Clarity before hustle, standards over moods, identity over intensity. You don't need to move faster, you need to move smarter. And that means building systems, not chasing highs. That means falling in love with process, not just result. So stop asking how fast you can win. Start asking how deeply you can build. Because when you think like a builder, not a sprinter, you realize something profound. The point isn't to arrive quickly. The point is to never collapse once you do. Most people live reactive lives. They wake up and let the world decide how they feel, how they think, what they chase. But that ends here, because if you want to build something exceptional, if you want to rise above the noise, then you must start every day with a deliberate identity. You don't get the life you dream of, you get the life you have the discipline to maintain. It doesn't matter how badly you want it, it matters how consistently you show up when you don't feel like it. Because motivation is fleeting, but identity is permanent if you choose to live by it. So who are you when no one is watching? Are you the version of yourself that acts from vision or the one that reacts from emotion? Because life will test you not once, but constantly. It will put distractions in your path. It will give you easy exits when things get hard. It will hand you every excuse you need to quit, and it will watch to see if you take them. And the truth, most people do. They break when the applause stops. They fold when the results are slow. They abandon their vision the moment discipline stops feeling convenient. But you're different. Because you're no longer addicted to comfort. You've stopped needing the path to be easy. You've accepted the truth that the strongest version of you is forged, not found. And it's built in the moments when no one sees the work, only the outcome. It's built in the silence when no one is clapping, but you keep going. It's built in restraint when you want to respond in anger, but choose composure. It's built in focus when the world demands your attention, but you protect it like gold. And over time, that becomes your edge. While others chase dopamine, you chase discipline. While they get pulled by distraction, you stay rooted in purpose. While they search for shortcuts, you build systems that outlast motivation. That's the difference between temporary progress and permanent transformation. One is emotional, the other is architectural. You're not here to win for a moment. You're here to never go back. And that means your standards must rise faster than your results. So start acting like the person who has already achieved it, not because you're faking it, but because you're training your nervous system to lead. You're conditioning your body, your mind, your spirit to recognize the life you're building so that when it arrives you don't sabotage it. You own it, you hold it, you expand it, because you've become the kind of person who... And here's the secret. This version of you, the strong one, the focused one, the one who leads with clarity and commands their energy, it's not someone you have to find, it's someone you decide to activate, moment by moment, choice by choice. And the more you live from that version, the more familiar it becomes, until one day it's no longer who you're trying to become, it's who you are. That's how greatness works, not overnight, but brick by brick, repetition by repetition, decision by decision. So the question is no longer what do I want, the real question is who must I become every day to deserve it? And the answer isn't out there, it's in your next action, your next thought, your next morning, your next refusal to negotiate with excuse, because the life you want isn't waiting on the perfect time, it's waiting on the aligned version of you to show up and claim it. And when you do, the world doesn't just change around you, it begins to bend to your will, because you stopped chasing potential and finally stepped into it. The greatest tragedy is not a life with no success, it's a life full of movement with no meaning. Most people are busy chasing goals they didn't choose, busy reacting to expectations they never questioned, busy running a race they never meant to enter. But not you. You're not here to check boxes. You're here to live with definiteness of purpose, to choose your life before the world chooses it for you. And that begins with a decision to get crystal clear on what you stand for, on what matters, on what you're building, and more importantly, why. Because without purpose, discipline fades. Without vision, pain feels pointless. Without a mission, you'll start mistaking movement for progress and distraction for growth. That's why you must define it. Not someday, not when you feel ready, but now. What is the outcome you are committed to? What is the future version of your life that you are willing to bleed for, to sacrifice for, to reshape yourself for? Because when that vision becomes real in your mind, it begins to shape your reality. Your purpose is your compass. It's the reason you say no when everyone else says yes. It's the reason you keep going when the progress feels invisible. It's the reason you wake up and take control of your day, even when it would be easier to stay asleep. And here's what separates the few who live with purpose from the many who don't. They don't wait to feel ready. They don't beg the world to understand them. They move from the inside out, with conviction, with clarity, with a mindset that says, I don't need permission, I need direction. That direction becomes identity, and identity becomes behavior, and behavior becomes destiny. So if you're wondering where to go next, don't look at the noise, don't chase the trend, look inward. Ask yourself, who am I when everything is stripped away? What would my days look like if they were built by design, not default? What impact do I want to create that will echo long after I'm gone? This is not just success. This is legacy. This is building something so aligned with who you are that when people see your life, they see a blueprint for what's possible. Because you didn't just talk about it, you became it. You became consistent in a world obsessed with chaos. You became self-respecting in a culture that glorifies self-neglect. You became someone who built the life they used to dream about, not by accident, but by intention. And when you move like that with purpose, with clarity, with relentless ownership, you don't have to force results. You become the kind of person who attracts them. That's what it means to be dangerous. Not loud, not boastful, but so rooted in your purpose that nothing can shake you. Not rejection, not setbacks, not delay, because your direction is bigger than your emotion, and your mission is stronger than your mood. So walk with vision, act with purpose, think like the person your future depends on, because it does. And every time you do, every time you choose clarity over chaos, alignment over approval, discipline over delay, you're not just changing your life, you're proving what's possible to everyone watching. And that is the power of living with definiteness of purpose. Once you have clarity of purpose, there's one more force that makes it real. It's not luck. It's not motivation. It's belief in motion, what Hill called faith. Not blind hope, not wishful thinking, but the unshakable, trained conviction that what you've seen in your mind is already yours in time. That kind of belief doesn't come from the world. It comes from within. It's built when you show up consistently, especially when you feel nothing. It's built when you take the step before the path is fully lit. It's built when you speak your vision out loud, even when no one claps, because you're already sold on the future you see. And let me tell you something most people will never understand. You don't get belief by sitting around waiting for proof. You build belief by becoming the proof, by waking up even when it hurts, by practicing discipline in private long before you're recognized in public, by holding the image of your vision so powerfully in your mind that reality has no choice but to catch up. That's the power of faith in action. It's not loud. It doesn't need to shout. It doesn't beg for validation, because it knows. It knows that every repetition is a vote. It knows that every sacrifice is a seed. It knows that pressure is not punishment, it's preparation. And in the quiet moments when nothing makes sense, when the doors haven't opened, when the world looks at you sideways for dreaming too big, that faith keeps you standing. That faith keeps you building. That faith becomes your armor. And what happens when you combine faith with persistence? You become inevitable, not because the path is easy, but because you've decided it doesn't matter. Not because you're fearless, but because your mission is louder than your fear. Not because you're lucky, but because you refuse to quit. That's the difference. That's what separates legends from spectators. They don't stop when it's hard. They don't fold when it's slow. They persist with belief, over and over and over, until reality catches up with what they already decided in their mind. So don't ask, will this work? Ask instead, how long am I willing to persist until it does? Because when your answer is as long as it takes, you step into a different category of human being. You become the kind of person who can't be ignored, who can't be swayed, who can't be shaken by temporary defeat, because you already decided who you are. You don't need permission. You don't need validation. You need one thing: relentless, focused, faith-backed action. And when you combine that with vision, with purpose, with identity, you become a force the world cannot contain. It's not enough to believe in yourself. You must protect that belief from anything that seeks to weaken it. Because no matter how strong your mindset, if you surround yourself with people who doubt, delay, and diminish, you will start to question the fire inside you. Your environment is not neutral. It's either fueling your growth or slowly killing your ambition. Most people never reach their potential, not because they didn't have the ability, but because they never escaped the gravitational pull of small minds, weak energy, and average expectation. They stayed in rooms where vision was mocked. They shared dreams with people who only understood limits. They tolerated mediocrity, and it became their mirror. But if you're serious about building something legendary, you must get ruthlessly intentional about who and what you allow into your space. You don't need a crowd. You need a circle of force, a mastermind. Napoleon Hill said that the mastermind is the coordination of knowledge and effort in a spirit of harmony. It's not just people who support you. It's people who stretch you. People who don't flinch when you speak your biggest goals out loud. People who challenge your excuses, sharpen your vision, and demand your greatness. You need to be in rooms that make your comfort zone feel like a prison. You need conversations that reprogram your thinking. You need energy that reminds you what you're capable of, not what you should settle for. Because let me be clear, you cannot build $1 million mindset in a $5 environment. You cannot grow a future surrounded by people addicted to their... You cannot become unstoppable if you keep choosing comfort over alignment. So audit everything. Audit your inputs. What do you listen to when no one is watching? Who do you vent to when you're tired? Where do you go when you're uncertain? Every habit, every voice, every influence, they're either feeding your future or starving it. And the most powerful thing you can do is choose intentionally. Surround yourself with excellence, or become the warning story. That's the fork in the road. And if you don't have that environment yet, build it. Start with your own mind. Fill your space with words, sounds, visuals, routines, and habits that reflect the person you are becoming. Because once your inner world is aligned, you'll start attracting the outer world that matches it. And from there, everything changes. You become the kind of person who doesn't just talk about high standards. You live them. You breathe them. You raise the frequency of every room you walk into. And that's how you stop being influenced and start becoming the influencer of your own destiny. There comes a moment in every transformation where you stop trying and you start deciding, not hoping, not wishing, not seeing how it goes. You decide with finality, with force, with zero negotiation, because success doesn't come to those who dabble. It comes to those who declare, this is who I am now, and this is what I do, period. Every great life is built on a single decision to stop allowing the old story to lead, to stop identifying with failure, hesitation, or fear, to stop rehearsing weakness and start embodying power. And here's the truth nobody tells you. The moment you decide, the universe shifts. Not instantly, not always visibly, but the momentum begins. New doors appear, new people show up, new patterns emerge. Because when you change your frequency, you change what you attract. But that change begins within, with one bold, final decision, that you will no longer abandon yourself when things get hard. You will no longer betray your potential to protect your comfort. You will no longer flirt with your goals. You will marry them with discipline, with full body alignment. From that place, everything becomes different. Discomfort becomes your teacher. Delay becomes your sharpening stone. Repetition becomes your ritual. Because when you've truly decided, you don't need more motivation. You don't need the perfect mood. You move anyway. You lead yourself. You walk forward when it's silent. You execute when it's boring. You show up when no one else claps. Because your vision isn't tied to applause. It's tied to identity. And the version of you who decides and never looks back, that's the version the world responds to. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be certain. Because certainty creates behavior. And behavior rewires identity. And from that place, you stop becoming your past. And you start becoming your standard. So don't wait for clarity. Create it. Don't wait for conditions to be perfect. Command them. Don't wait for signs. Become the signal. This is your life. No one's coming to save you. No one's going to hand it to you. You build it brick by brick with every decision that says, I'm done playing small. I'm done repeating the old story. I'm done living below my potential. You want to change your life? Change your decisions right now, not tomorrow, not someday, because the moment you decide with full conviction, the old version of you dies, and a new one takes its place, one who doesn't chase, but creates, one who doesn't react, but builds, one who doesn't wait to feel ready, because they already are.